Cold calling technology platforms. What's new in 2025? Cold calling in 2025. Still effective, but far less forgiving. If your team feels like cold calling keeps getting harder, you're seeing the same reality we see across B2B outbound. More spam filtering, lower trust, and higher expectations for relevance. But the phone still opens doors. Recent benchmarks put dial-to-meeting success in the 2.3% to 4.82% range, which means small efficiency gains compound fast. The biggest shift in 2025 isn't whether cold calling works, it's whether your technology platform turns limited connects into consistent meetings. That matters because even now, 78% of business decision makers report taking a meeting or attending an event because of a cold call. When you sell higher-ticket B2B offers, a handful of incremental meetings can create meaningful pipeline, if you can reach the right people and run disciplined follow-up. This is why modern cold calling services are increasingly paired with data, automation, and coaching instead of relying on raw rep hustle alone. In this guide, we'll break down what's new in cold calling technology platforms in 2025, what capabilities actually move performance, and where teams commonly waste budget. We'll also share how we think about platform selection and workflow design at SalesHive, since we operate an outbound sales agency model where results depend on repeatable systems, not one-off heroics. If you're building internally, hiring SDRs, or evaluating sales outsourcing, the same fundamentals apply. Treat your dialer like a revenue system, not a phone app. The best teams don't evaluate a dialer as a standalone tool. They evaluate an outbound engine that ties activity to outcomes in the CRM. When every call automatically maps to an account, contact, and disposition, you can measure dials, connects, meetings, opportunities, and stop arguing about effort versus impact. This mindset is a major reason B2B sales teams are investing heavily in modern platforms as the predictive dialer market scales toward $25.52 billion by 2030, with a projected 42.3% CAGR. Infrastructure has changed too. Cloud deployments represent about 85.52% of predictive dialer implementations, which is why integration depth and API flexibility now matter more than dialing speed alone. In practice, a modern platform should sync notes, outcomes, recordings, and follow-ups to Salesforce or HubSpot with minimal rep effort. If your SDRs are still copy-pasting call notes or manually logging activities, you don't have a dialer problem, you have a workflow problem. A simple way to sanity check your stack is to map one SDR day end-to-end. How leads enter the dialer, how tasks are sequenced, how dispositions trigger next steps, and how managers review performance. Teams often buy shiny features and miss the basics, then wonder why adoption stalls. This is where many cold calling companies fall short. They optimize tools in isolation instead of designing a single operating system for the reps. Dialing modes in 2025. More volume options, more risk if unmanaged. Modern platforms typically offer preview and power dialing, plus predictive and parallel modes that can increase live connects per hour when used correctly. The trade-off is brand risk and rep burnout. Parallel, multi-line dialing can be a force multiplier, but only if you cap lines based on rep skill and enforce call quality standards. If your outreach looks and sounds transactional, higher volume just creates more negative signals, spam flags, short calls, and list fatigue. Connect scarcity makes automation valuable. It takes roughly 3 attempts to reach a prospect, and average connect rates hover around 16.6%. So features like automated redials, time-of-day optimization, and time zone controls aren't nice to have. They directly determine how many real conversations you get from the same list. For any SDR agency or outsourced sales team running high activity, these controls protect both performance and consistency. Use the table below to align dialing mode to motion, not hype. The most common mistake we see is rolling out the highest volume mode to everyone on day one, then trying to fix quality later. By then, you've already trained bad habits and damaged caller reputation. Caller ID reputation is now a core KPI and a hidden growth lever. In 2025, your answer rate is heavily determined by caller trust signals, not just your script. Studies show 76% of calls from unidentified numbers go unanswered, while verified or branded caller ID can increase answer rates by 25% to 56%. If your numbers are flagged as spam or scam likely, the rest of your cold calling technology stack doesn't matter. The fix is process, not hope. Register numbers through carrier analytics ecosystems, commonly including Hiya, First Orion, and TNS via your carrier or a reputation provider. Rotate high-volume lines and review answer rate by number weekly. We recommend giving RevOps clear ownership here, the same way they own deliverability for a cold email agency motion. A common mistake is treating caller ID issues as an SDR problem, when it's really an ops and vendor management problem. Platform-wise, look for tools that make this measurable: number-level dashboards, spam flag monitoring, branded calling support, and clean separation between campaigns so you can isolate issues quickly. This is one of the biggest differences between a basic dialer and a 2025-ready outbound sales agency stack. If your reporting can't show answer rate by number next to connects and meetings, you're flying blind. If your numbers are flagged as spam, none of your scripts, training, or AI will matter. Caller trust has to be treated like a first-class revenue metric. AI and conversation intelligence, a force multiplier on good conversations. Call recording is table stakes now. The advantage comes from transcription, coaching workflows, and outcome correlation, what most teams mean by conversation intelligence. When implemented well, these tools turn every call into structured learning. Talk-to-listen ratios, objection patterns, discovery depth, and which phrases actually lead to meetings. Industry reporting has cited performance lifts around 25% after adopting AI-driven call analysis and coaching. The nuance is important. AI doesn't fix bad targeting or a weak talk track, and it can't rescue a poor list. Where it shines is accelerating feedback loops, auto summaries into the CRM, searchable call libraries, and scorecards that let one manager coach many reps consistently. This is especially valuable for teams trying to hire SDRs quickly, onboard new cold callers, or scale an SDR agency motion without quality falling off. A practical rollout is simple. Record and transcribe everything first, then standardize 3 things: disposition definitions, a short call scorecard, and a gold call library that new reps can study. The common mistake is buying conversation intelligence and never operationalizing it, which turns a powerful tool into an expensive call archive. If your managers aren't reviewing a consistent sample weekly, you don't have a coaching program, you have storage. Multi-channel outbound works best when calling is the centerpiece. Phone-only outreach is rarely the best approach anymore, but phone-led outreach is still one of the fastest ways to earn attention. Multi-channel sequences that combine calls with email and LinkedIn have been cited as driving up to 287% better results than single-channel efforts. The key is orchestration. Your dialer can't live in a silo if you want compounding touches rather than disconnected noise. In a clean workflow, a call disposition triggers the next step automatically. Send a tailored email when someone asks for info, route a wrong person to a contact update task, and schedule a follow-up call when timing is the objection. This is where tool sprawl becomes the biggest ROI killer. If SDRs bounce between a dialer, CRM, sales engagement, and LinkedIn tools without a unified task queue, your throughput collapses. Whether you run in-house or via sales outsourcing, the best results come from one connected operating rhythm. For B2B cold calling services, we recommend designing sequences where the call is the primary conversion event and digital steps are support acts. Email and LinkedIn should amplify credibility, confirm details, and create recognition before the next dial, not replace the conversation. Teams that treat multi-channel as do everything, everywhere, usually end up with generic touches that harm both deliverability and brand perception. What to measure, and what most teams forget to measure. If you want leadership buy-in for better tools or more SDR capacity, you need a funnel view that starts with dials and ends with pipeline. Track dials per hour, connect rate, and meetings per rep. But don't stop there. Measure meetings to opportunities and pipeline influenced by calls. When your baseline dial to meeting rate is only 2.3% to 4.82%, even a 1-point lift can change your quarter. Add 2 2025-era metrics that separate modern teams from legacy telemarketing approaches: answer rate by number, caller ID reputation, and coaching engagement, calls reviewed per manager per week. Answer rate by number helps you catch reputation decay early before scam-likely labeling tanks performance across campaigns. Coaching engagement ensures your conversation intelligence investment translates into behavior change rather than passive analytics. Finally, connect activity to the realities of reaching buyers. With a 16.6% connect rate and roughly 3 attempts needed to reach someone, your model should forecast conversations required per meeting and meetings required per opportunity. A common mistake is setting activity goals without adjusting for list quality and reputation, which encourages spammy dialing patterns that make things worse. When metrics are honest, your tech decisions become obvious. Choosing your path: modernize in-house or partner with a cold calling agency. Deciding between building an internal engine and working with a cold calling agency comes down to speed, focus, and operational appetite. Building in-house gives you direct control, but you'll own hiring, training, data, compliance, tech procurement, and ongoing workflow optimization. Many teams underestimate how much time that takes, especially when they also need list building services, CRM governance, and a multi-channel motion that behaves like a true sales development agency. Partnering with a B2B sales agency or outsourced sales team can compress timelines because the platform, process, and coaching are already running at scale. At SalesHive, we've seen that the fastest improvements typically come from tightening 3 levers at once: data quality, caller ID reputation, and coaching feedback loops, then letting automation do the repetitive work. That's why the best cold calling companies and B2B cold calling services look less like dial shops and more like integrated revenue systems. If you're unsure, run a simple benchmark. Audit your current metrics, pilot a modern dialer workflow or a sales outsourcing partner for 60 to 90 days, and compare meetings, pipeline, and rep time saved, not just dials. Make the decision with real conversion data, not opinions. In 2025, the winners aren't the teams that dial the most. They're the teams that build the cleanest system for turning scarce connects into qualified meetings.